Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind from the Mastermind Collective uh, group. I'm the only one that's here right now. I know Samantha has a wedding that she's going to. I'm not sure if everybody else just has things that's going on, and they haven't chimed in to let me know. So, so hang on a second. So with this, sorry, I'm have the YouTube channel on so that way I can comment stuff over there to what people say and want to pop in. Okay, sorry about that. Got that muted. Now I'm back here. So, but I'm still going to go on. This week we are still in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, talking about tiny changes, remarkable results. This is the book. I actually have the hard copy, and we are on chapter 5. And what was really nice about this chapter is, let me find it again. Uh, Last week we talked about in the book about a woman who was visiting her father and he didn't look right, and because of things that she has experienced from being a nurse and stuff. Sorry, I'm trying to read something. Um, that she realized that the coloring in his face was not up to par on what it should have been, and said he had to go to a hospital, and so they got him rushed to a hospital and found out he needed life-saving surgery from a stroke or something like that. So by her doing her everyday job and things and stuff, even though she didn't know exactly what it was that was not right, she learned how to study and pick up on nuances in the looks in people's faces and stuff to realize that something wasn't right about the blood flow in his change. So that was leading into talking about the habit scorecard and uh, the way of listing things to uh, a list of things you might want to do and how you might want to start making some changes and stuff. Well, this week he goes a step further and he talks about the best way to start a new habit. And in it, he talks about in the beginning of the book, well, I'll just read from it. It says in 2001, researchers in Great Britain began working with 248 people to build better exercise habits over the course of 2 weeks. The subjects were divided into three groups. The first group was the control group. They were simply asked to track how often they exercised. The second group was the motivation group. They were asked not only to track their workouts, but also to read some material on the benefits of exercise. The researchers also explained to the group how exercise could reduce the risk of coronary heart disease and improve heart health. And then the last group, these subjects received the same presentation as the second group, which ensured that they had equal levels of motivation. However, they were also asked to formulate a plan for when and where they would exercise over the following week. Specifically, each member of the third group completed the following sentence. During the next week, I will partake in at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on day, and he's got that in a type of parentheses, at time also in parentheses, and in place also in parentheses, meaning putting in an effort and emphasis on the day, time, and place. So in the first and second groups, 35 to 38% of people exercised at least once per week. And they noted that interestingly, the motivational presentations given to the second group seemed to have no meaningful impact on behavior. But 91% of the third group exercised at least once per week, more than double the normal rate. And so with that, that got me to really thinking because I have set out to make some new changes, change some things, wanting to eat healthier, wanting to try and exercise more as I'm getting older. As you can see from the uh, gray fuzz here, um, and up here, the real gray up there. Um, I'm not as young as I once was, and I was very active. I played sports most of my life. I love sports. I'm competitive. Um, thoroughly enjoy it and have fun when I am involved, whether it's singles sports where it's me against somebody else, or whether it's team sports like soccer, um, uh, ten, well, tennis. We had teams, but we also played individually. What else? Wrestling when I wrestled in high school, swimming, things like that. Um, but in that, as I've gotten older, I've gotten my life and stuff because I get busy and carried away with things I'm doing. Some of the things I say I want to do, but do I really follow through and do I really implement the things I need to do? So, um, and they learned that the sentence they filled out is what researchers refer to as an implementation intention, which is a plan you make beforehand about when and where to act. This is how you intend to implement a particular habit. The cues can trigger a habit come in a wide range of forms. The feel of your phone buzzing in your pocket, the smell of chocolate chip cookies, the sound of an ambulance silence. But the two most common cues are times and location. Inflammation intentions leverage both of these cues. So basically saying, broadly speaking, the format for creating an inflammation intention is when situation X arises, I will perform response Y. And so, kind of you have your X axis, kind of your X axis and Y axis, or or X axis, Y axis. And so, as you're charting things on it, you have as you go, you need more than one dot to be able to draw your line or draw your graph or whatever. So in essence, as you implement things, that's how you get moving in the motion of going forward to start seeing the changes that you want in your life to implement the things. So in that, um, it has been shown that implementation intentions are effective for sticking to our goals, whether it's writing down the exact time and date of when you will get a flu shot or recording the time of your colonoscopy appointment. They increase the odds that people will stick with the habits like recycling, studying, going to sleep early, stopping smoking, things like that. And I know one thing for me, like I'm trying to get more sleep. So I'm trying to go to bed anywhere for me between like 10 and 11. So usually I get about 5 hours sleep. I tend to wake up anyway during the night. But if I try and go to bed, and I seem to have gotten in the habit now, I start getting tired and ready to fall asleep around those times. That's because I built into that habit of constantly working towards that in my mind that, oh, it's 10 o'clock. I need to go to my room. I need to kind of do my normal things to wind down and get my mind in the mindset that, okay, it's time to go to bed. That's part of, the habits that we talked about before, the habitual things we do just on automation. We just do it because it's become the normal and that's how we do it. And we don't even think about it sometimes. Um, so, um, in that, the people who make a specific plan for when and where they will perform a new habit are more likely to follow through. And the key thing I think I want to bring out here is too many people try to change their habits without these basic details figured out. We tell ourselves, and I've done this. I'm a perfect example. I'm going to eat healthier, or I'm going to write more, but we never say when and where we're going to do that. Sorry, I'm trying to find out if anybody else is going to come. One of our regular panelists had something she had to do, but she is done with that, so I think she's going to be jumping on to add her insights too. And so, but I think that's the thing we all get into is we've heard it, we've seen it, we all have done it. That oh, beginning of the new year, we all say I'm going to eat healthier, I'm going to go to the gym, and we start and we do it, but then after a while we fall off because even though we started, but we haven't kept up that new habit long enough for it to build in, and we really haven't set the intentionality of it. I think when you set the intentionality and you have it click here, for me, a lot of times, if I really write something down and put it and I write it, it connects with my brain more and I tend to follow through more. Just like at work, when I do things at work, if I write it down or go through the actions and motions, it tends to stick here better and I tend to follow through and do those same things. So with that, I think this is something that, um, here she is. Hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Glad you joined us.
How are you?
I'm good. I've already started, but basically, I've just kind of gone over the first part of the book about the best way to start a new habit, where he talks about the implementation of intentions and um, how not enough people will sit down and like say, I want to start a new habit on this day by doing this and that, where he talks about uh, like in the groups that they studied in the beginning of the book, where they studied the three groups, and in the third group they had them write out that sentence during the week: I will partake in at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on day, at time, and in place. And it seemed like they had more results from the people that did that because of writing down their intention and implementing it that way, rather than people who just were told to track how often they exercised, and the other group that were told to track it, but as well as read up on information and were told some specific information. So, what do you think about that little implementation exercise of actually writing down or stating the day, time, and place? Have you ever done anything like that, or gone through that process and have it stick better rather than just saying, "Oh, I want to eat healthier, I want to do this or whatever"?
Yeah, that's pretty much just stating your intent, setting a goal, putting it in words, speaking it out loud, writing it in. I mean, that's what every book we've ever read is said to do.
Well, but have you ever done like both? Like where you said, "Oh, I'm going to do this," or "I want to do that more. I want to change this," and kind of not follow through. And then other times where you've set it down and wrote it out or made a specific intention. Have you seen the differences yourself, or have you always kind of been that way?
Well, I wasn't that way before I started, reading self help books, but once I started reading the books and they all said to do that, then I started doing that. Uh,
Okay.
Not necessarily with every new habit, that I wanted to do, but it's pretty obvious. I mean, that's why they teach people to do that because it works.
Okay. And then the part in the book that really liked and really thought was a interesting way of building on habits was the part where he talked about habit stacking, a simple plan to overhaul your habits. And he took this from a French philosopher, Dennis Diderot, who lived in poverty most of his life, but through circumstances of his daughter getting married and didn't have enough money, but somehow the Empress of Russia really loved the encyclopedias that he helped write at the time and paid him the equal of that time, what, a pound, thousand, or whatever it was in their monetary, which is equal to more than $150,000 today. So he suddenly had money to do that to pay for his daughter's wedding, and then as well as he made a change in his house, but then he realized that um, when he did that, then the rest of his house kind of didn't fit. And as I was reading about that, I've said I've seen that. I've lived that because in my house, I've made some changes. I put some tiling down. I put up some backsplash in my. So then it made me change and look at how things in my house, and it's like, well, that now I need to look and change this. How we fall into that kind of trap of the uh, compulsion to spend, even though we're just doing that compulsive spending kind of type thing. But he moves that into talking about how if we want to change habits, we can stack a new habit in with the old habit. And the formula for that is like after current habit, I will, and then do the new habit. So he gives some examples of meditation. After I pour my cup of coffee each morning, I will meditate for 1 minute. So the normal routine is pouring the cup of coffee, but then adding the new habit of meditating for a minute or exercising. He talks about after I take off my shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. I myself have learned that when I come home, and this is how I've implemented it without even knowing I was implementing it. I usually do a lot of house cleaning on Tuesday, so I have a certain day I do certain things, and I come home and I don't even let myself sit down. I just will start in doing my dishes or vacuuming or cleaning my floor or whatever my stuff I want to do in part of my cleaning, because I know that the minute I sit down, I won't have the energy or the desire to get up and do anything else, and I'll turn on the TV, and then I'm kind of just blowing myself out of the water for doing that. Have you ever done anything like that, or have you ever used that process to introduce a new habit into something and not really knowing that it was called this, but have you ever done that, or is there something new to you that you've ever or that you've heard of?
Well, I think people have been doing this a long time. It wasn't termed habit stacking, but I guess that's a good term for it. I mean, some people, well, when I had a family, when I had a husband and children at home, we had certain days of the week that we ate certain things, and it was all planned out because that made it easier to do. Like you said, you plan to do your cleaning on Tuesday, so you know on Tuesday when you get home that you are going to be doing that. And I think some people are better with having everything planned out. Some people are better with just going with the flow of the day. But if you find yourself having trouble getting the things completed that you want to complete, and you haven't tried scheduling it all out, then definitely try that and try, this what he's calling habit stacking, where you kind of plan a new habit right next to one that you're already doing, so that you get that extra cue. He calls them cues, um, to do whatever the task is you set out for yourself. And in these days and times with social media, it's really, really, really easy to get distracted. Um, we have so many things calling our attention, and I know all my friends on Facebook right now are probably very disillusioned with me because I haven't been on there in weeks. And the reason I haven't been on there in weeks is because I have other things I have to do, and Facebook is very distracting. And if I get on there and I have like 90 some people that I have to get back to. And for one thing, it's just overwhelming. It's overwhelming to have to get back to 90 people. Number two, if I do even try to knock off the top 20 or whatever, it's very time consuming. and I have other things that I have to do right now. And so I think you can get, these days, even if you're a person that kind of is a more go with the flow kind of person, and that normally works for you, I think with social media and all these other distractions that we have these days, sometimes you have to revise your plan a little bit and try something new if you're not, getting the things in there that you really feel like you need to be getting in there. I know that exercise is something that I have not been incorporating. I definitely need to incorporate because I'm driving so many hours and I'm just sitting, and I need to incorporate some walking. And with our crazy weather here, it's a little bit challenging. But to like set, okay, on a certain date at a certain time, I'm going to do this because it could be a blizzard, and we do have, I call them endorphin addicts out here that are out there jogging in the blizzard or whatever, but I'm not going to be jogging in the blizzard because I can't afford to fall on the ice and have another fall. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't go walk around the grocery store, or I don't even know if we have, I guess we do have an indoor mall. I'd have to drive about 30 minutes to get to it. But, you can, it doesn't have to be set in stone necessarily just because you plan it out a certain way, but it's still, if you plan it out, if you speak the words, like what I found that really works is not necessarily write or my plan, um, but when I made that mind movie years ago, and I still use the same mind movie, it was like a very short film, 3 minutes. It had um, pictures, and it had affirmation that I wrote in there, and it had music that I really loved, and so it kind of incorporated all my senses. But even what I discovered, just playing that video and reading the title, the affirmations to myself silently, was not as effective as when I played the video and read the affirmations out loud. I don't understand it, but we are energy, we are vibration, and evidently speaking the words and sending that vibration out to the universe does something. That's what I have found. So if you do choose to try this and write your stuff down or whatever, also incorporate reading it out loud to yourself. And if you can do it a few times a day, that's even better.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. There are times where I try to set things out and I do things kind of, yeah, and I sometimes go with the flow myself, and I've learned that that doesn't necessarily help me the best because then I get in the flow and then little distractions. Can be easily distracted. So I'm like I said, on the days I come home to do my like cleaning and stuff, I learned that walk in the door, get started, do what I need to do. Don't turn the TV on. Don't turn anything on. Let my mind just be focused on what I want to do. And then that way I get started and get in that mode. And then once I'm in that mode, I'm fine. It's good. And I can usually get what I want done. Um, but there are other things that, work for me that I do like having music when I'm working and doing things and in the things. It usually helps me work faster and better. And, uh, getting the energy and the flow of that. So I know that works for me. But as far as doing, I have my daily things that I do daily that I just do out of routine that I've done for years and years. But trying to implement new things into that has been hard, and that's why when I was reading this habit stacking, I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's a way for me to implement both. I think the implementation strategy of saying, okay, when I do this habit, then I will do this and write that down and say, okay, upon these things and kind of incorporate the two to give myself better results and a better chance to um, achieve my outcome that I want, and to be able to establish that habit. So then it becomes part of my daily routine, as we covered in the last chapter, that we have the things that we do as a normal daily thing that we built up and done for years and years and years, that um, tend to be on automation, but also learning to become more aware of the things I do on automation, so I can make tweaks and changes to those things, even to better improve myself by using that call and point or say method that we talked about, and a couple other things that were talked about in the last chapter. And I love how you can kind of build on these things too and incorporate them together to help get yourself to achieving the best outcome that you can achieve, to not get distracted. And that's, I think, like you said, I think that's the biggest thing that happens today is people get so easily distracted. Somebody posts something on Facebook, and if you get notifications that somebody posted, I've learned to turn Facebook off during the day. That way I don't see if there's any notifications. I don't know if anybody said anything till I come home later on and I log in, and then I see like, oh, 15 different people have said this or that or whatever. And then I can go and look through and find the ones I really want to focus on. Don't worry about the rest, and then post a couple things to interact with people, and then get off and go on. Because I used to be on Facebook a lot, and it did take a lot of time, and I realized it was sucking a lot of my time. And that's something I didn't want. While I like Facebook and I enjoy it, but I also let it take a little more control than what I wanted it to. And unless I'm doing it for things for my blogging or things like that, where it's being conducive to building towards the life that I want and what I want to build on, I don't want it to be that habit that is I don't want it necessarily a bad habit, but one that doesn't serve me in the best intention, as we learned in the last chapter. And I think you make some great points there. But this was a short chapter, again, very quick, um, and I think that in going through this and going over it, um, I really highly suggest again that this is a great book to get it to read and go through. I think it's a great book that can go in tandem with you know the Slight Edge, putting those two books together, because that book has a lot of things to help work with this. But I don't know if there's anything much more to pull out of this. Any more suggestions or any more thoughts from you, or do you think we're okay and move on and let people go about their day and get ready for next week? Or I don't know. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, it was a pretty short chapter. I think we've covered it, and I do just want to encourage people. I'm one of those people that doesn't do well with, I don't have a to-do list every day, and I'm sort of anti-structure, I guess is how I would term it. But for certain things, I found that it really is like sometimes people think, well, it just, I don't have time. I hear that from everybody these days. I don't have time. And I feel that way too. I don't have time. I don't have time to sit and write out a plan. I don't have time to make a mind movie. I don't have time to set these intentions. But what I found is, although I don't schedule everything in my life, there are definitely certain things that I do, and it becomes a time saver in the end. Kind of like going back to, let's say you have a family and you, most families have like certain meals that they like, certain things that their kids will eat, so they wind up eating pretty much the same things a lot. So if you have a certain meal every day of the week, you know, on Monday you have this, on Tuesday you have that, on Wednesday you have that. Okay, yeah, it takes a minute to make that plan, but once that plan is set, then it simplifies and makes grocery shopping quicker because you know exactly what you're buying. It makes fixing dinner quicker because you know exactly what you're fixing. You don't have to look around and figure out. I just missed my road. You don't have to look around and see, you know, what have I got in the house? What can I make for dinner? Who wants what? Okay, Sally Joe wants this, and Henry wants that, and then you're dealing with, you know, compromising on that. So it really does make things quicker if you can spend just a minute to get these things in place. And other than that, I mean, I think we should just let people get on with their day. Maybe give them a few minutes to write out their intentions or their plans.
I agree, and I just will add my last little bit and then let people go because I think you brought out some good points. Is I'm really not. It's weird. I like my structure at work. I like doing things in order and how I do it because it gives me the process of how I make sure I get things done. And if anything gets thrown in, um, then it can cause me to make mistakes and stuff like that. But but you have to allow room for some things to come into play, and because life is like that. Life really is not that structured in that sense, and you have to learn to kind of roll with the punches. So in that, I like the idea. I'm personally think people that write lists out, I mean, and they have lists that are, 15, 20, 30 things long and they check things off each, it that drives me up the wall. It's like, how, do you not let leave room for anything just to kind of, so that way you can kind of just interact and let life kind of, be life. So, but I think, like you said, if you have some basic guidelines, like you said, with meal planning or things you do, kind of, on a regular basis, but it's not so tight that, you don't have any place or room to allow for things to happen. So that way you can put those things that come up in. Um, So I think there's, like I said, this habit stacking is a way of moving that and being able, because he also talks in the book about how he tried to do a couple things, but when he did it, it wasn't right at the right time. It wasn't that what he wanted to do was wrong. It was just not appropriate for that time. So that's the other thing is you got to learn and find where the right fit and places where things can fit, and you have to be flexible in that too. And I think a little bit of what you were leading up to, um, in that is, you know, don't be so rigid and set like this, because I know people that are like that, and then there are people more like you and me. We tend to kind of go with the flow, but kind of that middle road, and learning to be able to adjust, but still keep within your framework and your intentions of what you want to do. So with that, um, this has been a quick one this week. Hopefully, we'll have more people on next week, like we did last week, and we'll be on chapter 6 next week. And so, with that, I have nothing else. So, if you have nothing else, Catherine, I say we call it and let people move on and have a little more time for their day today.
Sounds good. Have a great week.
Okay, you too. Bye.